Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. His name is Adam Tilove. Mr. Adam, how are you doing, sir?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on.
All right, Mr. Adam, and also thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Firstly, you are a ADHD coach. You are also an educator and the creator of the Neurodiscipline Protocol. Can you please, Mr. Adam, discuss more about yourself and how you're doing currently now, Mr. Adam?
Great. In my career, most of the time has been spent in education. I was a teacher. I was the head of two different independent schools, and I've worked with many different teachers, many different students, and I love education. And in my most recent iteration, I'm bringing that energy into coaching. Um, So that's the origin. That's my personal origin. And the origin of the program, the neurodiscipline program, is that I tried to do this program called 75 Hard. Have you ever heard of it?
I haven't, Mr. Adam.
Okay, so 75 Hard is this very popular online challenge, and you're supposed to work out twice a day for 45 minutes each workout. You drink a gallon of water, you read 10 pages of nonfiction. One of the workouts must be outside. And it's very popular because people love challenges. But when I tried to do this challenge, I did it with four people in an accountability group, and we all failed. And then we tried to start again, and we all failed again. And as a result, we all sort of felt worse after failing this challenge twice than we felt going into it. You start with all this energy and hope and expectation, like, I'm really going to do it this time. And then you don't, and you feel terrible. So I started really thinking a couple years ago about how do people really make change? And so, for example, if I wanted to be a runner, and I said, I'm going to be a runner, tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and run a marathon, 26.2 miles. It's going to be great. Like that look on your face is the whole thing. Like it's like, of course you're not. That's ridiculous, right? But somehow we think that we can take on all of these big other challenges without building skills, without building our discipline, without slowly enforcing the systems in which we can enact change, force ourselves to enact change. So the first step of my program was thinking about that and building like a 13-week protocol that really starts with sleep and it starts with night first protocols and moves on into diet and exercise and building systems around these things so that by the end of it you have the discipline, you have the systems, you have a lifestyle where you could do something like 75 hard and succeed. Um, so that was phase one. Can I continue?
Yes, Mr. Adam.
So thank you. I didn't know whether you had any questions, but the second phase of this was really having to do with ADHD. And I'll just put out there first, do you know much about ADHD?
Yes, I know it's more of those that are disabled, if I'm right, Mr. Adam.
Good. So I'm going to disagree with you. But it's something that you said that's very important, right? Is that we're disabled, right?
Yes.
ADHD stands for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And none of that felt like an accurate label for who I am, right? I don't really have attention deficit. I am amazing at focusing on things that I am passionate about or that are creative or that are interesting for me. I can do that for 10 hours in a row. That doesn't feel like attention deficit. Hyperactivity, that doesn't feel like me either. I have energy, but I'm not bouncing off the walls. And disorder doesn't feel accurate either. Like I don't have a disorder. Maybe I do, but I don't, it doesn't feel like there's something wrong with me. What it feels like is that when something is not easy to focus on, I'm not passionate about it, when I don't feel my creative juices flowing, and it's just time to execute and do the boring grind of the work that separates an idea from a business, that's where the dopamine drops in an ADHD brain, and it becomes very difficult for us to focus, right? So the problem is not that we can't focus, it's that it's easy to focus on things that we're passionate about, and it's very hard to focus on things that are not fun. Whereas the normal brain, for example, you maybe, if you said, okay, it's time for me to do my taxes or to file these papers or to write
Yes.
this, make these calls, you would say, okay, now I'm directing my attention on this thing. And you would
Yes.
do it. For ADHD people, we're like, I have to do this thing and I don't want to. And then you check your phone, you clean your desk, you hire someone to do it for you. You do all these things that I call off ramps and trouble executing. So the real niche that I've done a lot of thought, a lot of introspection, a lot of research, a lot of studying about the ADHD brain. And I'll go on and just say that, like, for ADHD brains, we love to start our own businesses because it's independence, it's risk, it's creation, it's passion, these things that we love, right? We ADHD brains hate like working in an office and making somebody else's dream come true. So we start our own businesses. The problem is we're not necessarily that good at running the business because running the business means sticking with a strategy, executing relentlessly, day after day, being thorough, being consistent, and that doesn't work with the ADHD brain very well. So I just wrote a book about this. I'll just throw it out there. It's
Yes.
called Split Second. It's on Amazon. And what it does is it looks at the split second between when we say we're going to do something and then when we do it. It's like called the execution gap. It could be also called the should gap. Because as soon as you say, I should do this, you're not going to. Should is like, I'm going to mixed with, I'm not going to. So we're looking at that and breaking it into the exact mechanics, all the things that happen in that split second when you bounce away from your work and understanding the mechanics so that we can get in there and manipulate the mechanics and get more done. So in the end, I love working with all different people, but my
Yes.
exact niche are entrepreneurs or executives with these problems, whether they're diagnosed with ADHD or not. And those things are too many strategies, no follow through, burnout, only operating under extreme pressure and tension, um, reluctance to get started on projects that feel uncomfortable. Those things are fixable, but also unfixed can create a tremendous tension and problems in a business.
I sincerely appreciate you, Mr. Adam, for the great insight. It shows that we have this kind of imagination in our brain and we have a lot of motive as well in every single thing that we are trying to do. And with all this motive, there have to be effort, there have to be strategies, there have to be ways we have to try to keep up with it. And that is why I am so glad you brought out a very good and profound book that can also give more explanation, which is The Split Second, to give more explanation for people to understand better on how to also walk through those perspective as well. Because our brain, the way our brain is being structured at times, we have to try our best to make effort, see what we can do physically, build ourselves to get to a certain stage. It can't happen like magic as we usually know. And also, Mr. Adam, I would like to drive to the point of mistake. Because in regards to everything, when someone has a very good intention, but struggles to stay consistent in everything they do. What do you think is the biggest mistake people make when they are trying to build better habits, Mr. Adam?
So I think that's a great question about the habits. I think the number one problem is trying to take on too much too fast, right? We say, if you ask the average person, I'm going to ask you that, are you a runner?
No, I'm not a runner, sir.
No. Okay. If you were going to say, are you going to start running
Yes.
and you were going to start a workout, how far would you think to run tomorrow?
Alpha, I can say I'll run down to the main road. Is a bit far. I'll run down to the main road and come back.
And how far is that?
Ah, it's a bit far. Probably, let me say, about 7 to 12 kilometers.
7 to 12 kilometer. I'm not sure what that is in miles. I think that ends up being about 5 miles. It's the 4 to 5 miles, 7 to 12. That's a long run. And that's exactly my point is like when people start, like if you ask the average American, and we use the stupid imperial system, don't, it's not my fault. Um, how far do you think you want to start running? They'll say 3 miles. 3 miles is a very long run for someone who doesn't run. We set these goals in our minds to do these things that are unachievable. I'm going to work out twice a day. I'm going to work out every day for an hour, right? And really, we need to start with the simplest floor exercise. And a floor exercise is what I call like that's the floor. Like, no matter what, you can go further than the floor, you can work out for an hour, but at very
Yes.
least, you're going to do this tiny floor activity. And that floor activity could be, say, 10 push ups, walking a mile, right? And that's what you're going to do. And you got to think to yourself, like, what is the minimum that I have no excuse not to do? No excuse. Like, can I do 10 push-ups today? Do I have time to do 10 push-ups? Yes. Is there a floor in your house? Yes. There's no reason you can't do 10 push-ups. So that's your floor activity. And you start with that. And then you stop telling yourselves these lies. Like, I don't have time. I don't have any clean clothes. My shoulder hurts. Whatever. I'm hungry. I'm moody. Like something where you just are going to execute every single day. That's your floor. And if you can achieve that, then what you're doing is you're building intention in your mind. You're building this loop that says, I'm active every day. Instead of saying, I'm going to get big, I'm going to get ripped, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life, all these things are abstract, right? And they're really hard to achieve. What you want is something that you can do every day so that your brain starts trusting the things that you tell it. You stop lying to yourself about what you're going to do, and you just start to execute on something small. And then you know what? On next Thursday, I do my 10 push-ups and I'm like, oh, that felt good. I think I'll do 30 push-ups. I think I'll start doing sit-ups. You could do more. But then the next day you're like, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I don't want to work out. Guess what? You're still going to do 10 push-ups because that's your floor. And then you get into the mindset of I am active every single day. It's not about how much, it's not about how hard, it's about following through on doing something consistently. And that's the most important thing.
I sincerely appreciate that beautiful insight. Consistency is one of the key main points for us to build ourselves. We do know that we can have a lot of imagination, a lot of fast mindset when it comes to a lot of things in regards to building ourselves and doing great things at large. But we have to remember the basic is the most important thing. The basic is what we need to develop. And when we develop those basics, then we see what we need to work on from there, and we see what we also need to also develop from there, and that is what we have to try to work on. And I sincerely appreciate you for that beautiful insight, Mr. Adam. I would like to also
I'll
drive to
add
the
one more
point.
thing to what you're.
All right.
I'm sorry. I was going to add one more thing, which is that a good deed, a good action leads to another good action.
Okay.
Like you don't do anything in a day, you don't work out, you feel lazy, you go and you eat like pizza and ice cream for dinner, right? And then you stay up too late and you're exhausted the next day. And then because you're so exhausted, you don't exercise and you eat poorly. Like these things, it's a negative cycle. One negative leads to another. But you do push-ups in one day, and then you're like, I feel kind of good. I think tonight I'll have like a salad with some fish instead of the pizza. And then you're like, oh, my energy is steady, and you're like, oh, I know that I want to lock in this exercise today. I'm gonna get a good night's sleep. You get a good night's. One thing always leads to another, right? And there's no limit to the things, but starting small with one consistent habit that you're gonna nail every day, no matter what, leads to everything else. It's just a matter of starting small and not allowing um, your grand ideas to create an environment in which failure is so likely.
Hmm. I sincerely appreciate you for that beautiful insight. Something that we can do very little daily is one of the most important things we have to focus on first. I would like to also dive to the point of differences, Mr. Adam, because there is a difference when someone is actually creating a habit that is truly practical and sound goes, and also a habit that is difficult to maintain. So, how do you think listeners can tell the difference between a habit that is truly practical and the one that only sounds good in theory, but it is too difficult to maintain, Mr. Adam?
Look, I mean, again, it's about like picking something that you feel that you know you can be successful at. It reminds me, a friend of mine in New York City said, "You know what the best pizza place in New York is?" I said, "What?" He said, "The one that's 2 blocks from your house." Like the best gym you can go to is the closest one to your house. Why? Because it's about reducing the friction. It's about having access and about being able to do it. And the way that relates is simply like, what's the best habit? First of all, I'll start with the best one. The best overall habit, number one, go to bed early. Go to bed early because sleep affects every single aspect in your body. You want to think better, get more sleep. You want to have more energy, get more sleep. You want to have more discipline, get more sleep, right? And we always we start to we tell ourselves this lie that like, oh, I don't really need to, or it'll be fine, or I can operate on 6 hours of sleep, or just one more episode, one more game, one more this, one more that. And we are killing ourselves every day with that. The best habit is just get more sleep and let everything follow after that. But beyond that, like if you don't start with sleep and you want to start with diet, start with something simple, like no more tortilla chips. Just don't, whatever the thing is, make small changes. I'll give you another example. Like I drink black coffee. Somebody else who drinks coffee with milk and sugar or cream and sugar could be adding 150, 200 calories per day. They make one change and say, I'm not adding sugar and cream to my coffee anymore. I'll just drink black coffee. That accumulated over the course of the year is like 30 pounds. It's about making small changes compacted over time and not trying to go crazy and do everything all at once. Did I answer your question?
100%, Mr. Adam. You definitely answer the questions in regards to every single one thing someone needs to actually try their best to do to tell the difference when they are actually creating a habit. As you said earlier, as you said, we have to do what we enjoy. What we enjoy is what we will always be motivated to continue to maintain. And that is what we continue to need to build and also hold as well. Also, I would like to drive to someone who wants to try to rebuild confidence. How can someone rebuild confidence after repeatedly failing to maintain their habit and beginning to believe they simply lack the discipline to actually maintain the habit that they are trying to build, Mr. Adam?
I mean, wins beget wins. Like I said earlier, you start to get wins in exercise, then you start to get wins in diet, and you start to get the wins in sleep, then you get to start getting wins in your workflow, and you start get the wins in reading and meditation. Like wins, once you start accumulating wins, it starts to grow, right? So going back to my 75 hard story, that is the wrong way because that creates failure and failure that sticks to you, and you feel like, oh, I can't do it. But I'll just push back on something you said that you have to enjoy it. Like there's going to if your floor activity is doing 10 push-ups, there are going to be some days when you're just like, I don't want to do 10 push-ups. And you're lazy and you're tired and you just don't feel like and you're sitting on the couch and you're like, and that happens to everybody. And even in that, it's really hard, but that's when it's most important to say, okay, I'm in a should cycle here. I'm saying should. As soon as I say should, I know it's time to take immediate action. You just get on the floor, you do your 10 push-ups, and you're done. Because it's not always about doing the things you enjoy. That is important because if you're really not enjoying it, you have a much lower chance of
Lower
succeeding.
chance,
So it's
exactly.
important. but you also just sometimes you have to push through. And you just have to say, this is my floor. I do this every day, period. And once you get into the cycle of saying, I know how to force myself to do 10 push-ups, then you can say, I know how to force myself to walk a mile, to walk and jog, to do my taxes, to make these cold calls, to send these emails, to write this book, right? But it's about, and that's what the book is about. The book is called Split Second. And by the time this airs, it will be on Amazon. It will have come out on April 1st. And split second looks at the split second between when you decide to do something and when you actually do it. And all the things, all the emotional loads that we carry there's six emotional loads. There's six off ramps we can take. And there's a whole protocol for saying, okay, I'm feeling fear. I'm about to take a control off ramp. And instead, I'm going to take this. I'm going to touch it. I'm going to do an ugly rep, and I'm going to go towards irrevocable action. And there's a whole protocol and system there to stop people from that feeling of being stuck and get them into action, into movement. So that's the essence of it.
Thank you so much. It shows that every single thing that we are trying to do, we can try our best to build the sense of consistency and also try our best to create the sense of love. There are some times we will be down. There are some times we won't be able to do it the way we are meant to do it. But despite all that, we can still come back up and continue to do the little know we can do because we are already used to it. And lastly, Mr. Adam, I would like you to deliver a message for those who are out there who wants to create one habit that truly lasts. What would you encourage them to focus on first, Mr. Adam?
I would say stop, like press pause on this podcast right now, get on the floor and do 10 push-ups or three push or one push-up. Do what you can do and make a change this second, right? Don't say, oh, I'll do it after the podcast, I'll do it after dinner, I'll do it after like the time is now. And you can make it, you can, and then guess what? You do 10 push-ups, that 6 months you went without exercising is over. And the next 6 months where you are exercising just started. And it all happens with one tiny action that you can take right now. And the other thing I want to say is that, like, okay, perfect is the enemy of the good. So you start working out, you're on your habit tracker, you're tracking every day, and suddenly you miss a day. Let me pause for a second and tell you a story. I know this woman, a friend of mine, and she went camping with her family. And a family member of hers drove for 2.5 hours to get to this campsite, got there and realized that she forgot her little habit tracker thing. And that if she didn't click it, she would lose 500 days of consistency. So she turned around and went home because that was more important to her than keeping her streak was more important to her than being with her family and camping. And that's getting everything reversed, right? Sometimes these habit trackers that we're keeping are damaging because you miss one day and you say, oh, it's all over. I give up. I don't care. I lost my. No, you can always begin again. And remember, it's not about the things that are external. It's not about the habit trackers. It's not about the streak. It's just about you building consistency. You miss a day, don't miss 2 days. You can always begin again. And so the listener right here who feels stuck, right now, today is the day to begin again. You just start and you're on a streak. You're on a streak for tomorrow. So, you know, get moving. You got it.
Thank you so much for the beautiful insight. No matter how tough it is, sometimes we'll be down, sometimes we just have to come back up. We shouldn't say it is just over. We can continue to enjoy what we do because it is for the greatness of our health. It is for the greatness of us to perform more better and also do great things to the society at large. And also, Mr. Adam, there is a question I normally ask during the end of the show from our forefathers, from our ancestors. There are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our forefathers' time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mr. Adam, what do you think that thing will be, sir?
Reading. the kids today, none of us read enough anymore. We just don't. Like our phones, the phones are all the combined all of human knowledge into one little device that we can put in front of our face. And it's all human knowledge. It's all of human psychology that people are going and figuring out how do I make this more addictive? How do I make this more distracting? How do I keep people on the screen longer? You know, the average American scrolls over 50 miles a year, just going like this, 50 over 50 miles. And meanwhile, what happens when we read, the way in which we engage, the quietude, the focus, the storytelling, it's so rich in a way which requires a little bit of motivation, a little bit of quiet. And we need to fight with the constant distraction, the phone, and say, I'm putting it away and I'm starting a book. And I would just say, start a book, fiction, nonfiction, easy, hard, my book, anyone else's book, it doesn't matter. Just pick up an easy book to read and one where you're going to turn the pages, get lost in a story. Just get lost in a story because we just don't do that enough anymore. And that's what I would say.
Completely agree. Now we have artificial intelligence, which made it more worse. As students nowadays, they just say, go to the artificial intelligence and bring the solution to the problems. All these things are creating a sense of people not trying to, give the sense of reading, focusing, at least using their brain to give more focus on what they have actually learned in every other things they will do in their daily life. So for us to build a sense of reading, we should know that despite what we have on earth today, it is a grace, it is an opportunity. We should use it as a sense of backup, not as a tool for us to use for every single thing that we do around us. We should just use it as a sense of support. But the most important thing is for us to read and also do what is meant to be done at the right moment for us to grow, become more better, because that is the uniqueness and the quality we will hold and also provide to the society. I also want to use this opportunity, Mr. Adam, to thank you for the time, the opportunity you've given to me today for us to have this profound and insightful conversation. Thank you so much, Mr. Adam.
I've really enjoyed the conversation. You have beautiful insights and I ask great questions, and it's been my honor to be here. So thank you.
All right, Mr. Adam. Have a wonderful day, Mr. Adam. Bye bye.
Bye.